Okay, I realised I wasn't actually recording. Oh well, I'll just repeat what I was saying pretty much. You said first series attempt, I thought it's pretty good. Yeah, I'll start with the attack animation. So the thing I was saying just now, a couple very simple things I feel like you could add to make this just feel a little bit better. So, first things first, good job with the smears, right? Always a fan of the smears. At the same time, I was a bit confused about how... So I felt like this could be shortened a bit. This second smear, it's a bit awkward with the frame rate you're working with. And when I say awkward, I mean I'm not used to it, so it's awkward for me. But it did start to feel a bit sluggish towards the end, right? The smear went on a little bit. And so one thing I thought is, okay, could we just get rid of it completely? Just get rid of it, and so it's only on one frame. But then I thought that's quite quick. But perhaps... Yeah, because you could say that it looks weird with one frame because you're missing these two other things, which I'm going to get into in a second. Yeah, let's dive into those two things. So we could add, for instance, some anticipation, like a very quick anticipation frame. So rather than just going standing still, we could just add a little bob down, like a very slight bob down. Now we're going to see how this looks because I'm not sure. But let's say that helps. Maybe we can move the arm back, right? So he's reaching into his pocket or something. Yeah. Now, if we combine that, so we've got the anticipation, right? Rather than going from standing still to straight pulling out the gun, we've now got this little bit to say, okay, now we're moving. We're going down and we're up. Boom, boom, boom. Okay, so what we can now add also is some overshoot, right? Overshoot, I've talked about this a few times. It's where you're going from one position to another position, but what we can do is just extend a little bit beyond where we're stopping. So this will make sense in a second, but if we go to this frame here, what we can do is lift the gun up. So it's gone very quick, it's gone vroom, out of nowhere, but then it just, you know how it stops there? Right, it's like stop, 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 stop. And that's very sudden, right? Things don't stop like that. So you go really fast, and then the gun would sort of go up a bit because of the weight and the speed, and it's like, whoa, we went past where we want to go, so now we have to kind of recalibrate and come back down. So we can do that. Rambling over, we can do that. We can just go, okay, grab this, lift that up a bit. So that's a very quick example. So it just goes up a bit. You see that? It just goes past it and then back down. Now other ways you could lift up the whole gun, so it's more like that, which I tried in the first recording when I didn't realize I was recording. But then I found we could actually just lift up the end, right? Just have the end go up a bit. Now, if we wanted to push it really far, like this is just, I'm trying to exaggerate the principle here. What we could do is grab him, drag him back, make him lean back, have his leg go in the air, you know, and then come back down. Now, we won't do that because I don't think that's necessary. I think that's overkill, but I'm just trying to reinforce the point here of what this all is. It's just trying to communicate the speed, or it's to match the energy that this is doing, because this is coming out very quick. So now we need to match it with something else, right, by going past it. But yeah, we won't do that. Bring this back here. So those are a couple simple things, right? So we had the little anticipation here, just bobbing down, reaching the hand back. Then we sort of removed the extra smear frame and we replaced it with an overshoot frame. So now the end of his gun is just going up a bit before then coming back down. And with those two things together, it just feels a little bit more fluid, a little less robotic, let's say. Now as for the bullets, yeah, I think the bullets need to... Because this is a tricky thing, because it's going to depend on the game mechanics, because sometimes you want the bullets to go slow. Right, you don't want this guy to fire something and have it go 100 miles an hour, because how are you going to dodge that, right? So sometimes you want the projectiles to be a little slow-paced. In my opinion, I think these are slightly too slow-paced. Again, it's tricky. It's a tricky one, right? It's depending on how you want the game to be. But if this was just a standard animation, I would want it to go faster, right? I would want this, and I would want it to be like, boom, you know, smear the bullet frames, something like that. Probably even a bit faster. Something like that. Not exactly, because I don't think that looks too good either, but that sort of direction. Maybe you'd also add a bit of some of this stuff. You know. A little bit quicker paced. Yeah, other than that, I don't want to go too deep into it. There are a few other things, but I think that is a good start, right? If you're just getting the principles of anticipation, so we've got these little bob back downs, these little bob downs before doing the movement, and then the little overshoot after you're doing the movement. You want their sort of energy to match each other. You know, the guy's a human being. He sways a bit. He gets overwhelmed by the momentum of the gun because it's a heavy thing. So he's got to lean back a bit and, you know, raise the tip up because of how fast he's going. But yeah, I'll end it there for that animation. The run, if you Google walk animation cycle or run cycle, I don't know if you were referencing one of these, but I'm sure you can find plenty on Google as I'm Googling now. Yeah, you'll have these little images where people have shown a sort of frame by frame of how to do a run animation. Now you don't have to replicate them exactly, but I think they're a good reference to have just to get the core movement. That's the main thing I can say, is if you can just study them more, because largely that's what my criticism of the run animation would be, is that it's a tough one to explain, because it's a very difficult thing to critique from just a distance, just from looking at it. So I'm throwing in the towel on that one. Jump, again, this one's gonna... See, I don't know if this is how high he will jump, or if these are just the frames you'll use, and then when you throw it into a game, you'll sort of make him fly around a bit. I don't know. So again, a hard one to criticize. What I will say is, like, I think you're doing the anticipation here, so you're kind of making him bob down in the same way we did over here with this gun animation. The one problem there is you're giving him the jump pose while he's bobbing down, when really you want a separate pose. So you want more of a anticipation pose, which then goes into the jump, right? So maybe we throw his arms back down. Again, it's very rough. That sort of deal. You know, you can figure it out. Maybe you could throw his arms closer to the side. Do you know what I mean, right? Like, you need to have a separate pose for the anticipation, in my opinion, to the actual jump pose. Super attack, I would just say the same thing that I said for these bits over here, you know, of the overshoot and the anticipation and the smears. And so I won't comment too much on this one. But I think one thing we could do is this bit over here, when he's just now landing and sliding back. I feel like this could use some arcs. So arcs, if you don't know about arcs, it's where we have movements that are a bit more... That was a bad example, but you want movements to be a bit more flow. So in this case, what is he doing now? He's going from here to here to here, and then he's flatlining it, right? He's straight lining it up. But I feel like there's an opportunity here just to add a bit more curve. So just here, on this frame, we kind of throw him down a bit. Boom, boom. You see that? Already just from me going back and forth here, it feels a bit more... feels a bit more gravitas. No, I don't know what the right word here is. A bit more bouncy. You know, like it's reacting to gravity. That he's actually landing rather than being a solid block that goes side to side. But it's a very small thing. You know, I'm not saying it was terrible before, but I think if you can just add a bit more of a landing, because he's going from up in the air, and it's like he's got a big gun, he's going to have to crouch down a bit. He's going to have to get a bit of spring in his legs to carry that fall. But yeah, and we can quickly comment on the death animation. I think it just needs to be faster, or a bit more popish, because I think this one's being dragged out a bit. I'm debating whether I actually want to create an example. I don't have that much time at the moment. What I will actually do is use this animation here, who was sent in by Gabunzagoon. I'll put their @ on the screen. But yeah, they sent in this one quite a while ago. I was meaning to do a review of it. I wasn't going to do feedback. I was just going to sort of look at it and go, hey guys, look at this one. But yeah, this was sent in October last year, so quite a while. I apologise. Yeah, this was the death animation they did. So they've got this little wizard here. Wizard! And they've got a little death animation. And I think this sort of thing works, you know, it's a bit more poppy, it's a bit more movement. You know, he does a little rotation, he does a little spin, and I know it's kind of, you know, this is based on the theme, right? The theme's going to be a bit more magical and whatnot, versus the more realistic look from the other one. But it's just the idea of making things very clear that you've been hit. But if it's not moving, right, if you die and you sort of stand still, then it's not as clear. So I prefer this way of doing things, where the character does make a very dramatic movement, and it has this little, you know, it doesn't always have to have explosions, but it can benefit from having this little poppiness to it. But yeah, I think that covers all of the ones you got here. Just as a recap of the general things: anticipation, you want different anticipation poses. So like with the jump here, you had this pose being used as the anticipation, I think. Yeah, try and separate them out a bit. Same with the attack animation, try and add a bit more anticipation, and then a bit more overshoot as well. So when you're lifting these heavy things, you want the character to take that into account. You can also add some arcs, similar sort of thing as I was saying with the overshoot. It's like you're landing, you kind of got to take the fall a bit. So yeah, I think good stuff. Those are my comments. Let me know your thoughts. Let me know if any of that made sense, and I'll see you later. Okay, I've talked like a lot about idols recently, so I don't want to actually analyze this one too much. Just really good. I just wanted to share this one, really. Great subpixeling. It does remind me a lot of Danny Aru's art, who I've shared before. It's just really high quality stuff.